Welcome to TechExperts, experts in tech. Here we explore what makes companies successful in today's world. My name is Miguel, and today we will be talking about cloud networking. For this topic, we are bringing for you our special guest, Jean Critcher. Jean is leading the European consulting practice at Orange Business Services and has more than 20 years of experience in the IT and telecom industries. Today here you will learn what cloud networking is and why this will become very soon a critical piece of the enterprise's tech infrastructure. Hi Jean, welcome to Tech Experts. I am very happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
I guess we will learn a lot about cloud networking.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. Thank you for having me and having me talk about this very interesting topic.
Would you like to give us an introduction about yourself and on what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. My education stems from computer science and software engineering, but I'll be honest with you, I've been using it a little bit these days. In the early days, I used it for coding software with United Parcel Service, that big global delivery company. And I'm proud to say that I was part of the team that actually developed the first signature recognition software. Isn't that cool? That's really cool. So
In what year was that, Jean?
that was too long ago, Miguel, before you were born. Okay. But anyway, I was very young and still, in fact, I think I was probably around your age when I was doing a lot of my entrepreneurial work, and I had a few startup companies. After I left UPS, I met some people who were very entrepreneurial in the new techno areas. And in areas like voice over IP and IPv6 networking, everyone thought with the year 2000 that we were going to run out of IPv4 addresses, and it never happened. But it was a fun, exciting time. And in one of my companies, which was very professional services based company, we landed a contract with Global One. And Global One is the initial of where we are today in Orange. I don't know if people know Global One. It was a combination of France Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, and Sprint. And I had a very interesting start project when they contracted me, which was bringing the data and the voice teams together. So it's very interesting base because it'll be relating to this type of topic of cloud and network together. So, but I worked on building like the service delivery and service support models and bringing the two capabilities and two different cultural dynamics of teams together in that early stages. So I'm kind of feel like I'm repeating a bit of this process, but this is the world of convergence, right? So, but Global One became France Telecom because France Telecom bought the whole thing, and then Equant, they bought Equant, and then we took on the Orange brand in 2006, and ever since then, I've had a great amount of contracts, a great amount of positions. My contract actually, I decided to leave my companies because the company was so interesting. And I had jobs in product marketing, product development. And then I went back to my roots in professional services, where I was a solution director for some global solutions, bringing WAN optimization and networking and performance together and security together with that. And then dabbling a bit in a few years around the integration services, which is also extremely important these days, bringing product and service together, learning a lot about regulatory and legal by country level. And now I'm enjoying leading the technical practices here for our European team in the consulting space, and have now been much more exposed to a lot of the portfolio, including cloud and data.
You mentioned convergence before.
Convergence,
And
yes.
convergence, exactly. And this is also the topic of today, right? Because what is cloud networking?
Yeah, so exactly. I mentioned in the beginning days of my career in this company, we were converging voice and data, and now we're about converging cloud and networking. So what is cloud networking? It's a means to build secure virtualized networks and connecting distributed applications across a multi-cloud environment or multi-cloud environments. And this is using web interfaces and API gateways to achieve that. But what's interesting is that we're still not getting rid of the fundamentals of networking here. It's just being applied in the cloud. For example, the core networking capabilities, but they're now virtualized using the standard networking protocols, the BGPs and so forth, VLANs, subnets, etc. And also orchestration, monitoring, operations will always play a major part, as it does with any type of networking service, and having control. Public cloud integration is also the means of what this is going to be bringing, that glue over the public cloud that entails using gateways, hubs, firewalls, load balancers, the delivery networks, etc. So you see, it's very network oriented components, but they are transformed into virtualized automated capabilities across the hyperscaler environments and integrating mix of services that we normally run over the physical networks. So on top of that, we have enterprise applications of our customers, the workloads that they're producing, and all of this becomes in part of a virtualized network environment.
Okay. And what trends are we seeing with cloud and networking?
Yeah, well, before I get into the trends, maybe a bit of reflection of how we've got to where we are today. Okay, this trend to cloud and networking has had a few predecessors, which are worth a mention because it's a starting point to why cloud networking has become such a great interest. About 7, 8 years ago, we saw an uptake of projects related to data center cloudification, and this was driving the demand of software-defined capabilities, especially for those based on vendors like Cisco with their ACI or application-centric infrastructure, and the VMware portfolio, which was highly used for enabling this transformation. The SD-WAN craze hit the market around 2015, and by 2017, we saw quite a dramatic deployment of when customers started to adopt an all internet and public cloud strategy. Even in Orange here, we supported more than 30 customer SD-WAN deployments in a 2-year period at global scale. You know, Siemens, for example, which is one of our top customers with thousands and thousands of sites we try to transform in a few years to SD-WAN. SD-WAN also offers an interesting capability called Cloud on Ramp. Almost every vendor today has this ability. It's basically to facilitate access to the cloud more easily from the network. However, it could not address the multi-cloud connectivity needs across a multitude of different hyperscalers environments. Okay, so it's important from a connectivity standpoint, but it's still not the end-all solution. So when customers were saying, okay, I'm trying to get to my public cloud, I'm trying to transport routes of traffic with SD-WAN on the public cloud, then it became a black hole. That's why cloud networking became an interest a few years back. And the increase has come dramatically for obviously reasons of people working from home now more these days. But it's about native networking features, operational management, shortfalls of the hyperscalers that could not support the increasing workloads of the enterprise. So some specific vendors came onto the market, and we've heard about some of them. Aviatrix, which we just signed a partnership, and we have a growing partnership with them. We also have the likes of Alkira out there, which is also a vendor we're working with. But what's also interesting is to give a bit of background of what the analysts are saying. It's not just about what Orange is seeing. The analysts are seeing also the same change, where the enterprise's workloads are accelerating, and that's what's driving these cloud networking needs. For example, Gartner says by 2023, 40% of all the enterprise workloads will be deployed into the cloud and to platform services. So this is up already 20% from last year. And then by 2025, 35% of companies will use multiple public cloud providers, but will need a single network stack. And that's going to increase, or has increased 10 times from even May this year. So it's really gaining speed. IDC also had a survey out last year where the public infrastructure as service clouds growth was also increasing, and to multiple infrastructure as service public clouds. So this is becoming much more of an important topic, and we are now starting to see this pick up within our customer base here at Orange.
Okay. And why is it so important for companies to think about cloud networking as part of the cloud transformation?
Well, as I mentioned, they don't have the ease of ability of having applications and workloads talking to each other across the different multi-hyperscaler environments. So They want to leverage these capabilities and use this common orchestration capability to manage that, and on top of all other types of technology partners and ecosystems. And this is one of the key reasons why this is becoming extremely important. But there's also another big reason. The cloud is seen as the mecca of elasticity, elastic scalability, excuse me, while using DevOps agile processes and also on-demand models. So why not apply this to networking functions? This is why we're looking at this. So cloud and multi-cloud networking was created to facilitate and simplify the exchange of application traffic and data between the multi-public cloud environments, and including performance and security. But one of the key things that's still kind of a black hole, if I may say, because the cloud is becoming a bit more visible, is finding that sweet spot of return on investment or total cost of ownership. So the consumption model is the one where everybody likes to have an ease of turn up, turn down, use what I need, amount of data that I had to use for this amount, for that amount, for this period of time. The as a service consumption model. And shifting more into the cloud means more data and therefore can mean increase of overall cost. However, the savings can be offset, or reduction can be offset, with the physical infrastructure and then the diminishment of the longer deployment times. That's where people can see some of that. There's some vendors out there right now that are claiming that you can save as much as 45% of total cost of ownership with an as a service cloud networking model versus the DIY. And I would say the DIY is what everybody would love to have, but it's really not a scalable solution or a capable solution. And I'll get into some of those challenges that we'll talk about. The DIY and co-locations can be extremely, extremely taxing, expensive from a physical, people-wise effort.
I mean, 45% lower total cost of ownership.
Yes. And then there are real models out there, and some of the vendors, well, one of the vendors we're talking to has actually shown us some real cases around that. So I think it'll depend on the context, the environment, of course, the architecture, but this is one of the key savings takeaways that they've seen for this.
I mean, that's a very good reason to at least start investigating
At least,
how this fits within the company strategy.
exactly. And I think that's the key word, investigate, because, it's not going to be the same for everybody. And I think that's a key point, is to understand what level of savings can they achieve with this. And you need to take a due diligence with that approach.
Okay. And besides the cost savings, what are the other business or technical benefits that companies can expect from cloud networking?
Well, then enterprises are, since they're moving to this cloud networking, it means they can shift resources of the network and even security into cloud. And again, mentioning the cost savings, it's taking away from having to have physical networking everywhere. Virtualizing the infrastructure, automating networking, security functions can be actually beneficial, especially if they use a code approach. Coding means that they can get a change done and already predict and simulate potentially what could be an impact before actually moving it into production. So there are a lot of tools out there that help with that. There's also the classic ones around the multi-cloud transit networking. I mentioned that already because of the IDC and the Gartner reports that this is one of the key drivers. But even with a single cloud provider, we're even seeing customers taking on cloud networking because they want to minimize the capacity of having physical infrastructure in certain locations. They want to get visibility into the cloud, improvement into the cloud. They want to have improved security and compliance, and they can bring all their enterprise security policies and next-gen firewalls into the cloud to do that. There's also, I mentioned, the automation part, the workflow provisioning, which means they can go in and do continuous integration, continuous development, a DevOps approach, where they can be much more agile on making changes and facilitating, because applications and workloads will change. And I mentioned already having the visibility and troubleshooting. I can't tell you, through our performance monitoring capabilities, we have positioned monitoring tools to give visibility into the cloud. These cloud networking vendors can also provide that built into their capabilities. And then the hyperscaler infrastructure themselves have built out services or virtual WANs so that they can be leveraged for providing a traffic optimization and utilization in the same context that a physical networking can be done. But one of the key drivers we've seen is that a lot of customers have started with using this for their acquired companies and integrating them faster. We have a very large tire manufacturer right now who is exploring using this because they just acquired another company and they cannot converge the networks very quickly, but using the capabilities, say, like SD-WAN with the cloud networking to be able to talk, like, for example, one of their enterprise resource applications, this cloud networking can facilitate that across the single hyperscaler. And this is something that gives them a business return on investment quickly with that acquisition. So that's just to give you some of the examples of where the benefits can come from cloud networking.
Okay. And what are the challenges that we see from the first pilots on cloud networking?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, it's internal capabilities the customer may not have. And some have tried to do the DIY approach. And as a result, started to come to us and saying, we really do not have the expertise to understand how to put this all together. We're not experts on the hyperscaler environment, though cloud networking takes away that need to have an AWS expert or Azure expert. Rather, it's somebody they need to be able to facilitate the networking and security codes or automations and being able to deploy that and understand routing. This classical network routing does not go away. You still need the networking and you will need some security expertise to do that because you're combining that on a cloud platform, but using the cloud networking as I guess you could say, the middleman of this, but enabling the ease of putting it across multi-clouds. And that's why the multi-cloud networking part is so important. But finding the right experts is really difficult, and so that's why the pilots we're initiating these pilots with the customers to help facilitate on an expertise gap. Probably the second most requested and still a bit more challenging is the SD-WAN integration. Yes, SD-WAN has capabilities like cloud on-ramp to be able to facilitate the connectivity, but there's still levels of architecture understanding and how to leverage that or maybe design it a little bit differently to integrate it into the cloud networking platform and the hyperscaler environment. So that is still something that needs some work. Also, there's the assumption that, everything's virtualized. There's no more need for physical boxes. Not quite the norm yet. Not yet. We still sometimes have to deploy some controllers here and there on a given environment on an enterprise-centric mode. But there are vendors out there that do everything completely software-based as a service. But again, there will be some potentials where physical infrastructure will be required. And another challenging one is that full integration into customer and IT environments. And this is why enterprise architecting is an area of need where they need to facilitate the cloud networking orchestration and to be able to map into what they're doing on their own IT environments. And that also is something that we're helping and learning along the way. The other thing we're learning is that though the technology vendors themselves may be new, like for example, it might be some firewall vendors, it might be some, the SD-WAN vendors, there's still some API libraries that have to be leveraged. And if those technology vendors' API libraries are not in essentially a more advanced form, then some things may have to be developed. And then toward more of a microservices approach where they can be easily mapped into a DevOps type of agile environment on the longer term. But probably the most key one we're learning is around due diligence approach. Again, this is not a magic box. You throw it in and put it into cloud and everything, poof, it works. It's about understanding the application traffic flows. And it's about understanding, again, the workloads and what are they expected to see in terms of the routing policies with those workloads. And this does take some work. You need visibility, and it needs a lot of engagement with the customer to understand how are they using the hyperscaler today. We won't, if as a networking provider came in there, which we are, we wouldn't have any visibility of what they've been doing over the hyperscaler. So we would need to get that kind of due diligence put together so that when the cloud networking is implemented and the routing policies are applied, the workloads which we are going to be supporting is going to be performing at the expected levels. So that's probably some of the key takeaways we're getting from these experiences we're having so far.
Okay, thank you very much. And one final question before finishing today's episode. What would be your recommendation for companies that want to start exploring more on cloud networking?
Well, I think you mentioned it. It's the numbers are compelling to start the investigation. But if any customer out there is looking at putting more into their public cloud and minimizing infrastructure, and they want to integrate a lot more what they are doing on software-defined capabilities, it's worth to start the process now to look at it, because then it could be diminishing a lot of overhead of costs that they may be able to save on on the longer term. So I do recommend they start to explore it. And if they have a multi-cloud environment already, I think it's definitely worth a look to be able to manage better the traffic across the different multi-cloud environments.
As well, if it's okay for you, I will add your LinkedIn profile into the description of the video,
Okay?
and then people can reach you out for getting more information on this
Absolutely.
topic.
Absolutely. We are getting more involved with this area every day. We have the partnerships evolving with the Aviatrix. We are getting more experience now with a set of customers that have wanted to work together on this. So absolutely would welcome to have people contacting us and customers contacting us about wanting to know more about our experience.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jean, for this insightful introduction to cloud networking. And looking forward to more conversations with you.
Thanks, Miguel. Have a great day.
You too. Have a nice day. Bye. If you like today's video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. This helps us to grow. You can follow us as well on LinkedIn and Instagram. Links in the description below. I hope you enjoyed today's video and see you in the next one.